When I was in the seminary ages ago, it was just the beginning of the Vatican Council, in which many of the ways we approach our church and teach our faith began to be adjusted to modern terminology and modern ideas. Actually, when we were studying theology, I think we were still fighting the Protestant Reformation, which happened 500 years ago. So there was great emphasis on this gospel reading when it came up, because this is the gospel reading on which we base our belief that the Pope, the Bishop of Rome, is the successor of Peter as the Bishop of Rome, and therefore the leader of the church. That battle pretty much has died down, because actually many groups are beginning to recognize the authority and the effectiveness of this ministry in the church in the whole world. But I like to concentrate on Peter, not because he's the Pope or the first Pope, but because of his subsequent career. If you remember, after making this protestation of fidelity to Jesus, the next time we hear about Peter is in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he takes out a sword and strikes somebody and actually misses because he cut the guy's ear off. He didn't kill him, which I presume he was attempting to do to protect Jesus. Then Peter disappears. Good Friday comes along, no mention of Peter, except that he's seen outside the courthouse trying to find out what's happening without identifying himself. Remember, the little girl asks him, "Aren't you one of his disciples?" And Peter says, "Oh, no, I don't even know the man." Where was Jesus that afternoon when Christ was crucified? Where was Peter, the great disciple, when Jesus was taken from the cross and buried? There's no mention of him. No mention of him all the next day. The first time you hear of Peter again is when the women come and tell him the tomb is empty. Then he gets stirred up and goes, I guess out of curiosity, to see what was going on. I think he's a great model for discipleship, because to become a disciple of Christ is one thing, but to live as a disciple of Christ is another. And Peter wasn't living his discipleship very openly, at least, in those very first days of our faith. It was only when he continually encountered the risen Christ that he became the strong disciple who eventually laid down his life for Christ by being crucified. And I think that's a good thing for us to think about, because most of us became disciples because our parents decided we were going to be disciples. Some of us became disciples because in adult life we chose that route under the inspiration of the Spirit of Jesus. But to become a disciple, like Peter, or to continue faithfully as a disciple are two different things, and we have to be aware of that. One of the temptations we have as disciples is to reduce discipleship to its minimum. I go to church, I say my prayers, I don't commit mortal sin, I'm nice to my neighbor, and that's it. And we don't open ourselves to challenges to our discipleship which Jesus might want to bring before us, which is one of the reasons why we need to enter into a more meditative and questioning type of prayer, especially with the scriptures, where Jesus will continually offer us questions to deepen our relationship with him. We prayed in the psalm, "Your love is eternal. Do not forsake the work of your hand." And that's true of Christ. His love for us is unending. He wants to continually work with us to deepen our love for him and the depths of our discipleship.